What's up, everybody? Coming to you from Colorado. I'm on a family vacation and I'm at 8,000 feet and walking uphill, so don't judge me because I'm out of breath. But wanted to do a little video here because I see something that happens a lot. It really perplexes me and I want to address it. And what I want to address is the fact that so many dentists say to me, well, I'm just an associate, or I'd love to go to the summit, but I don't own my own practice. And Peter and I talk about this a lot. I think it bothers me more than it bothers him. But what I want to talk about is the fact that there's a narrative that says that you need to own your own practice in order to reach the pinnacle of success that we're all inspired to reach. And I think it's a false narrative. And I think it comes from the supply houses that want to sell us equipment. I think it comes from the banks that want to loan us money for our endeavors. And I think it's run by big dental business, actually. And I want to debunk that myth because there's three types of people. And the most important thing is to know yourself. There's an entrepreneur, totally bolden, wants to keep running and opening businesses going fast. And frankly, if the exchange is good, he is ready to exchange those businesses for profit. And then there's an intrapreneur, which is kind of what you'd think of as an associate, someone that works inside of an entrepreneur's organization. And then there's a solopreneur. And a solopreneur is the doc that has no other associate but just manages a team. The narrative is that the solopreneur, the single doctor, is the way to go in dentistry. It's what everybody says you should do. You should own your own practice and you can run it really well, get your overhead down to 60 or 65%, and boom, you'll make a ton of money. But you'll have to learn a lot of skills. You'll have to learn HR, legal. You'll have to learn how to be a leader and not just the dentist. And frankly, most dentists that are solopreneurs, the average single solo dentist, their overhead is such that it's not really actually making them that much entrepreneurial profit, meaning if they paid themselves 32% of their collected dollars, the amount left over is negligible. So the return on investment for owning that business is actually quite poor. And you have to do a lot of learning. So Naval always talks about your inputs equaling your outputs. You don't want something where your input and output are the same. You want to give little input and a lot of output. And being a solopreneur, a solo doc is not always like that. Let's talk about the intrapreneur now. So the intrapreneur might be many of you people. It's the person that works inside of a dental organization. Let's say maybe a senior doctor or a dental group. So that type of person can actually thrive really well because at 5:30, once the day is done and the dentistry is complete, you're not thinking about Sally the hygienist, or you're not thinking about the HR, you're not thinking about the loans, you're not thinking about the advertising as much. What you're thinking about is you're thinking of ways to excel and grow your collection. So what can you do? You can take on CE, you can learn advanced procedures, you can market yourself in the community, you can call each patient at the end of every night. And that way, you're not going to just have an exchange of time versus money. One thing that Peter and I have learned, Peter has gone through a ton of CE. He's, AACD and all these other, he's got like 15 freaking titles behind his name. But when Peter sees a patient, or when he used to see patients, he extracted a lot of value from each patient because of the skills that he had learned. So he didn't need a lot of up-at-bats. He needed to meet maybe 10 or 15 patients a month. And that was enough to, do millions of dollars of collection. And I just want to remind everybody that in order to become more valuable, in order to make more value, you have to be more valuable to the patient. So keep taking on that CE. There's a direct correlation for those that take advanced education and earnings. Don't just think that, I make 28% or 32% or 35%. I can't do anything else. It's just not true. So if you want your input and your output to be different, invest in yourself. And it's not just for the practice that you're in, because maybe you're in a temporary practice. Maybe it's not the associateship or the ownership structure you like. Maybe you're gonna wind up going on. But when you learn something and you leave an opportunity, they don't take that information with them. They don't repossess that knowledge. So wherever you go, you're gonna wind up having that knowledge and being able to use it. When I did my big building, I was really nervous I was gonna fail. And I actually thought about what happens if I fail? What happens if I can't afford, a $35,000 per month mortgage payment? And I said to myself, well, geez, I'll move to California. I really like California. And I said, no matter what, I can always have my dental skill. So failure was really not that scary for me. If you open up a restaurant and you fail, you may not have the investors or finance to actually open up another restaurant. But as a dentist, if you fail, you can literally take your licensure and go anywhere and open a practice and have a job. So it's amazing that we're so scared of failure as dentists, but the point I'm trying to make is that your skill that you have, the skill that you're developing, stays with you a lifetime. So that's the intrapreneur. And what I love about intrapreneurs is that, I have several. I have, 9 associates, and their take-home earnings are so different. The ones that are earning the most are the ones that have learned the most. So I have, doctors that work in our organization that make $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. I was an owner for over a decade or more and never made that. So, imagine if you could just focus on just your patients. And then imagine if all that learning that you're gonna do with HR and marketing and attorneys and all that crap that you need to know as a business owner, imagine if you took online courses on real estate investing or paired yourself up with a great investment banker, a fiduciary like the ones we have at the Dental Financial Freedom, and started investing that money. So instead of learning all the information on how to run a business, you actually deleverage your salary, your day job, and your investment. So for a guy like me, if my savings and my earnings are all in one thing, it's all in dentistry. So if a tornado, God forbid, ran through and wiped out my building, I would lose my investment and my earning. But for an intrapreneur, you can actually diversify. So the one reason why people become enormously wealthy is they have concentration in one area, like I do. And one of the reasons why people become very poor or they fall off the Forbes list or they lose everything is because they have concentration in one area. So as an entrepreneur, you can literally make your money and then invest. And I would put a healthy wager that the guy who makes, a guy or gal who makes, $1, $2, $3, $400,000 and invests money as an associate could actually be really better off than a solopreneur, single doctor that owns his own practice. By the way, let's talk about retirement for a second. There's 3 ways to get there. Either make enough money and invest it so that your passive money, your mailbox money, winds up funding your lifestyle. Number 2, reduce your lifestyle so low that you can actually afford, your burn rate, how much money you actually spend per year. Or 3, which is what I want to do, is love what you do so much you don't want to stop doing it. So if I hit the lottery, of course, maybe I'd have less stress, but a couple of weeks later, maybe a month later after that euphoria of that lottery ran away, I would actually wind up going right back to work. So that's the 3rd way. If you love what you do, you don't really need to retire from it. My father is 79 years old and still in the office. It's a part of what he does. It's a part of his identity. So don't think about this race that you have to get there. You may never want to retire, and that's cool too. So we talked about the solopreneur, the single doctor office. We talked about the intrapreneur, which is many associates, and nothing wrong with that. I think it's awesome. And I could actually have done the mental math, and I've done the inward soul searching. And if I would have met an entrepreneurial doctor, 15 years ago before I built my thing, that had something iconic and was going to do something to disrupt the way our profession exists, I would have gladly joined that person. So the only reason why, The only reason why I built it is because it didn't exist. I wanted to revolutionize the way dentistry is practiced. And by the way, that's an interesting point as well. I was forced into being an entrepreneur. I was guilted and embarrassed into being an entrepreneur because I set out to revolutionize the way in which dentistry is practiced. I told everyone. And really, I'm an artist. I'm not really an entrepreneur. If you gave me, it would be hard for me to sell my business, even for a big number, because I love it so much. So it's like my baby, my sense of identity. But I told so many people I was going to do this. Everybody was like, yeah, Spodek, when are you going to do it? Come on, the building, you've been a year, been 2 years. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? So I actually was embarrassed, frankly. And I wound up breaking ground and doing it because I'm like, you know what? Because I said I would. And there was a lot of pressure on me for that. But I realized I was an entrepreneur for a phase, just for a phase to get the building done. And once it was developed and done, really my artistic side came out, and I'm like, you know what? I'm really just an artist. I'm really the guy that just loves what he does, loves being around people. On the days that I'm off, the days that I'm not doing clinic, I actually want to be in my office. I've left on a big vacation and I'm here in Colorado now. And the day I left, on Thursday when I left, I actually found myself turning around, looking back at the office with like a sense of remorse. I'm gonna miss this place, I'm gonna miss my people. So building a life that you love and surrounding yourself with people that you love and developing your leadership to actually see people grow and watch them grow is so fulfilling for me. So that's kind of a little segue, or a little tangent rather, on the entrepreneur and the artist and the solopreneur, because it's just different phases. You'll have different times of your life. You may be an entrepreneur to get something done, and once it's built, you may wind up being a solopreneur. But remember, you have to evaluate everything, because your time is worth money. And I know I've talked to a lot of dentists who are solopreneurs. They're single doctors, and they tell me, oh, I'm doing great. I make blank dollars per year, and this is great. I go through their P&L. I say, well, hey, Dr. Jones, if you paid yourself 30% as an associate, you'd actually lose money. Do you love owning your practice? Do you love it? And I said, well, no, I don't love it, but I do it. I don't love managing people. I don't love leading a team. I'm like, well, it's costing you money to do so. So you should do that financial analysis. You should take your P&L and pay yourself, because just because you're willing to work for free doesn't mean somebody else would be willing to work for free. So figure it out. And it could be that you actually do lose money, but you love your team and you love leading and you love all the stuff and you love dealing, working with a hygienist and support team. And that could be worthwhile for you. But that's an important calculation to look at, that math calculation. So intrapreneur, solopreneur, last entrepreneur, we all know what that is. Entrepreneur is a person that just loves to create, and they just can't help themselves from starting new things. And once it's done and ready, it kind of loses their excitement for a bit. Once it's established and cash flowing, it's like, okay, what's next? And those types of people, once a business is mature, they get bored. And that's cool. I'm like that in some ways, certain things, I'm like that. So it's not like we're all entrepreneur. We're not all artists. We're not all solopreneur. It's different times of our life, different things. Things have to light a fire in our belly, but entrepreneur, you'll know your stripes. Those types of guys, interestingly enough, is a lot of the dental entrepreneurs don't fully get established in dentistry first. I noticed this trend. It might be my own selection bias, but for me, I see like my buddy Tim McNamara, he practiced dentistry for literally 14 months. So the first 14 months of my clinical career absolutely sucked. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was frustrated. And if there was ever a time I wanted to get out of dentistry, it was in the beginning, because I was just getting my butt kicked. So imagine if a guy is in dentistry for 14 months, and like, wow, this is dentistry? Shit, I just want to own dental practices instead. Versus a guy like Peter Bolden, who became AACD, he's got all those titles, like I said, and he was like rock star level dentist. He was, chosen as Atlanta's best dentist, and he had famous patients, and they all want to see him. Imagine how hard it was for him to switch gears and go from artist, solopreneur to entrepreneur, because his time was worth so much. He was the type of dentist that was probably producing $2.5 to $3 million a year, just with his own hands. So when he shifts gears and grabs a bunch of people to help him, he's gonna actually have a $2 million or $3 million opportunity cost. So it's just an interesting idea that if you're gonna be an entrepreneur, you're gonna have to switch gears at a certain point. If you are a big producer and you say, dentistry is just not for me anymore, I'm bored by clinic, I don't like clinic, I'm done with it. When you stop doing your clinical production, be prepared for a little bit of a hit. Nothing wrong with that, but it's gonna take some time to switch gears and give away your production to your associate doctors, and be prepared to take a small haircut, or maybe a big haircut, depending on how big your personal production is. But everybody has an hourly worth. So for a guy like Peter, his time was worth probably like $10,000 an hour, $5,000 an hour. So when he switches gears, he was gonna feel it. So kudos to him for doing that and following his path and his dreams. And by the way, there's no right answer for any of this. I just wanted to clear up the confusion. I felt compelled to do a video because I really do believe that there shouldn't be any shame in being an entrepreneur, an associate, you can actually do really, really well. I know realtors that take weeks to sell $100,000 condos. And I know real estate agents that sell $5 and $10 million houses. Same amount of time, but the one that's selling $5 and $10 million houses is killing it. And they are entrepreneurs. They work for Corcoran or Douglas Elliman. They don't own their company, but they've invested in themselves and they're making tons of money. So there's no shame in associateship, and in the right situation, it's wonderful. And if you have an ability to invest or have a chip on the table, a little bit of equity, that's a great thing too. And Peter and I always talk about that somewhere along the line, when you talk about buy-ins, it's always 40, 50, 60% buy-in. But like, I own Amazon stock. I probably own like 0.0001% of the stock. I have a chip on the table. I took an amount of money that I wanted to put into Amazon and I invested it there. So if you're in an associateship and it's been 3 years or 2 years, it's going really well, ask the doc for a chip on the table. Maybe it's a $20,000 investment. Maybe it's $100,000. Doesn't really matter if the practice grows by 50% or 60% over 5 or 10 years. You've actually made that on your money. So get out of your way with the 50% buy-in or 60% buy-in, because that's a sticking point. But there's a lot of doctors that would probably be really happy to give up a minority share of the practice and have that scale and grow over time. That's what I would do. I always ask for equity of everything. I'd rather be paid less and have equity in any business venture I go into. Anyway, that's my rant for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay connected to the Mighty Network. If this was valuable, please comment below. Sometimes we're doing these types of things and we're just talking like, is anybody listening to this crap? So if you liked it, if it made some form of impact, comment below. And thanks for listening. Stay bulletproof, people. Appreciate you all. Appreciate the opportunity to serve everyone. Hope I did that. Have a great day.